I'm in a dust bowl. Visibility is poor, and growth is hard to find. And competitors are appearing out of nowhere and disappearing. I'm wondering what to do. I don't quite know where to go. Do I move forward, or do I just put up tent and protect myself and wait out until the dust is gone and I can see a clear path? I'm a bit afraid. But I'm also worried if I just put up camp, I might starve and I might miss the party tonight as well. And I don't want to do that. This is what the industry feels like a bit to me right now. We're used to very much seeing a clear path, not without obstacles, around what to do. Our clients ask us, who's best practice, who's leading, who can we follow? Right now, everyone's figuring this out. So what's happening? Well, in particular after last week, there's a lot of economic and political turmoil out there. That's combined with what The Economist calls the age of the activist investor. A lot of industries, in particular the industry I work in, which is consumer goods, is seeing an unprecedented attack almost and focus from activist investors who are putting a lot of pressure around cost. And then there's this thing called digital that everyone is really trying to figure out. What's that all about? Everyone uses it as a buzzword: digital technology, digital consumer, digital marketing. But everyone is really trying to figure that out. Now, I think there's a lot of to be worried about here, but I also think there's a huge opportunity because there are no Olympic champions. Everyone's figuring this out. So there's a huge opportunity to not put up a tent and take a step forward. Now, what I'm going to talk about here is more around, well, what steps could you take and how to do this going forward, even though we have that little visibility. So that's what I'm going to go into. So first of all, just a bit of the why. Companies are disappearing much faster than ever before. If you look at the average lifespan of a company in the S&P 500, that's over the last 60 years, that's come down by 40 years. A lot of companies have disappeared, others have appeared. If this continues, by 2027, 75% of the S&P 500 will have been replaced. That's something to think about. So what's happening? Well, these big scale-based, in my industry, $1 billion brand-based businesses are being attacked by all kinds of new business models. A lot of them enabled by digital. So here's an example of one of the most famous companies, which is one of the biggest companies, which is Procter & Gamble. In the middle, you see their brand portfolio, these big, strong global brands. And they're being attacked. I call this the attack of the ants, because there's lots of tiny companies that are being funded by venture capital and private equity, and that are inventing new creative business models, often using new technology to attack these brands. If I pick 3 examples quickly, Dollar Shave Club, probably most of you have heard about. If not, it's worth looking at their ads because they are quite funny. And they're attacking the Gillette portfolio with subscription-based, online-only razor blades. And they, over the last 3 years, have taken 50% of the online razor market in the US and are now the second largest razor company in North America. Next one is the Honest Company, founded by Jessica Alba, because she couldn't find toxin-free products for her children that she trusted to use with her children. So she found a partner and she funded this company, which is now worth $1.7 billion. And then third one, which I quite like because it's a new business model combining product and a service, which is Beam, which sells an electric toothbrush as well as dental health plan. And the two are linked. So your dental health plan, you pay depending on how often you brush and how well you brush. Yes. It's a bit scary. It's going there. Is it going to work? I don't know. But these things are happening. And it's the attack of the ants. So none of these are taking over and they're going to be the next P&G, but they're threatening. And they're all taking the little bites out. And the classic strategy is, well, so what about it? I just acquire them. Well, the problem is everyone's taking that strategy. So it's becoming an expensive strategy. First of all, not all of them want to be acquired by big food, big brand, big alcohol, big beer. Difficult sometimes, but also everyone is trying this acquisition strategy. So everyone's trying to spend money. It's starting to get expensive. So actually thinking about yourself, what yourself you can do, is going to be important. And one of the things is understanding the consumer. Consumer changes a lot. If I'm a consumer now, I want you to know what I want. I want you to play on my terms, and I want you to make it specific for me. And that's true in the B2C environment, but that's actually also true in the B2B environment, because your business customers are also consumers. And these expectations are starting to be the same. This is starting to merge. This is what we call liquid expectations. Expectations are starting to merge. I call it there is no more best in class, because there is no more classroom. So when you think you're launching a new product, a new service to your customers, you compare the consumer or customer expectations with your competitors. That's your classroom. That's how you've traditionally done that. In the new world, people will compare that to the world. The level of ease of usability of an Uber, or the general ease of use of an Apple, or the search function of Google, or the customer service of an Amazon, or even an Uber as well. They're setting expectations out there. Even if they don't compete with you, they're setting consumer expectations that are out there. So when you're putting something out there, you need to be aware that how these consumer expectations are changing. So when you launch an app, it better work with a similar ease of use. If it doesn't, it's actually going to be detrimental to you. Then playing on my terms. This is about being able to transact wherever they want, and on their terms, not you pushing, I want you to transact here or transact here with me. If you're bored right now and the speech is not very interesting and you want to prefer shopping online, or you think about something right now, you want to be able to buy that right now. If I talk about a product, you want to go on their website and you want to purchase that right now. But you might also want to do that in the store. And it needs to be linked. So there's a world of omni-channel, and you need to start managing the journey. You know, when you talk to a company like Burberry and you ask them, how much are you selling online? That's the wrong question. We don't look at it by channel. We look at it across channel, and we need to make sure that we manage that journey. And people talk about seamless consumer journey and experience. It's not going to be seamless, because they are seams. We are organizations, and it's about managing the seams and making sure that the consumer has an experience, and they can transact and interact with you on their terms. That takes it to the next topic, actually starting to use analytics. And we heard a lot about the data and analytics this morning. Make it specific for me. Data and analytics are now at a level where you can actually start tailoring content and thinking, websites, mobile, even products to some degree, to the individual. Netflix here is a great example, who really is quite dominant in the market based on their algorithm, because they make recommendations using 72,000 sub-segments, targeting you with the movie recommendation so that you keep on watching, because if you stop watching, you might stop your subscription. They're actually using that data now to compete with Hollywood, because they have better data than Hollywood. They know what you like. When they launched House of Cards, they knew it was going to be a success. They knew 70% of their customers like Kevin Spacey. A majority like political thrillers, and box sets were a big hit. So before they even launched a production and spent the money, they didn't need a focus group. They had the data. They knew. And they knew then who to target. So they knew how to make products and then how to publish them. And they're actually now competing very well with Hollywood and the TV studios. So that's a lot about consumer engagement. And we heard a lot. That's typically in my industry when people say digital, that's what people talk about, and they think how to engage the consumer. We really think about it in two angles. One is go digital. That's how you engage the consumer and the customer. And two is being digital. I think at this conference we're hearing a lot more about the being digital, which is often forgotten by sort of the front office, and because it's not as sexy. But I do actually think the opportunity is at least half of the opportunity lies in being digital, which is digitizing the enterprise. And things are moving very, very fast here. I think we're hearing a lot about RPAs here today, which I think very, very quickly becoming the standard and everyone just needs to do. AI and things like that are next. What I see sort of still a bit out there, that's still a bit in the dust cloud, is things like workforce on demand, which I think is a big trend that's coming, where right now the classic model of your own workforce, your partner's workforce, shared services, outsourced workforce, there's this whole thing about just doing jobs, hiring individuals for particular jobs, which is becoming a big trend, and how to manage that. I don't know whether anyone's seen that, but LinkedIn recently launched a service called ProFinder, where they're actually matching people on LinkedIn with companies who need someone to do just a one-off job. And you could say, well, that's just contracting, but I think this is particularly interesting for companies that are struggling to acquire certain specific skills. Particularly in the area of digital and analytics, I think there's a huge opportunity here. And some are predicting that up to 40% of current jobs that are done by a full-time employee will be done by someone that's working in a more flexible environment, actually potentially doing multiple jobs for different companies at the same time. This requires a whole different level of vendor management. Everyone's been consolidating vendors, simplifying strategic vendors, taking out complexity. This will require dealing with a whole new level of people, and digital is a great opportunity to manage that. And then, as I say on the top, we talked a bit about that, which is creating business models. Thinking about where are my business models now and where are they going to go. And that's a lot. And that's why I call it a dust bowl. And I always explain in the industry, you need to think about this. This is a dust bowl. There is no best practice. You got to work this out. So what to do? Well, a lot of companies are struggling to do. And a lot of comments I get. We can't see any $1 billion opportunities. Nothing that moves the needle. We can't agree on urgency of digital opportunities and the threats. Our IT systems can support our digital ambition. We don't have the stomach to make investments needed, and we have quarterly earnings pressure. We aren't organized success in digital, and no one gets it. Do any of these sound familiar? Has anyone heard these before? I hear them a lot. So what to do? And you can put up tent and say, I'm just going to wait it out until it becomes clear, until I see the $1 billion opportunities. But I think there is a real opportunity for a change to have a first mover advantage here. So 3 things. I'm a consultant, there's always 3 things. So first, business models. Think about what's my business model now, and how am I making money now, and how's that going to change? Who's my consumer, who's the customer I'm selling to, and how are they changing? What am I selling? Am I selling a product? Am I a service? Am I selling a utility that I might need to automate because people don't want to deal with it? Or am I selling a service and an experience? Through which channel am I going to reach the consumer? Is it an omni-channel? Which channels in that do I need to think about? Do I need to plug into companies outside my ecosystem? My favorite example, which I still don't understand why no one's doing it, is when I rent on Airbnb, there is no company that's filling the fridge for me. Why is Heineken not partnering with Airbnb so that I can order my Heineken that's in my fridge when I arrive there? I don't know, or supermarkets, right? Plugging into others' ecosystem because reaching the consumer where they are. Spotify does that quite well with Uber, as an example. And then revenue, how do I make money? Transactions are still going to be the biggest ones, but what are new models? Subscription model is the one that's very hot right now in my industry. But what about even freemium? In some industries, freemium works quite well. What about franchising? Lots of different ideas, lots of different options. Key thing is to think about where am I now, where am I moving, and what does that mean for my enterprise? The second thing that's really important, and I think that's what most companies really struggle with, is real innovation. Splitting out brilliant basics, which is the projects, I think RPA, starting to get a really clear business case, things where you have a clear ROI, where you have expectations, things that are clear where you can put a project around that you just got to do. Some things might sound quite far away, but they're still just the basic capabilities that you need. And then there's this thing called breaking new ground, real innovation, which I think most companies aren't doing because big organizations, is my fundamental belief, aren't set up to do true disruptive innovation. So you need to separate that organizationally. This is the new stuff, trying new business models. I quite like the example of a cruise ship, a big cruise ship, that's your core business. And you want to invent new things. Those are the speedboats. If you put them in the pool of the cruise ship, it's not going to go very far. And you're not going to develop it very much. You need to set them free. But you need to make it a portfolio approach because some are going to sink. You can't expect every speedboat to work before you set it in the water, guarantee me that's going to work. Some of them are going to sink, or some of them are not going to work. You might have to call them back and readjust. And that's taking a portfolio approach. And you need to separate these 2 teams working on these things. And sort of breaking new ground, I think some of the companies that do that well, I think Nestle, for example, when they launched Nespresso, they separated that completely. And recently they launched Nestle Health Science, a food and pharma mix business, which again separated completely from the core organization so it could grow. And the other one is Pernod Ricard, who launched an Internet of Things lab just to try stuff out, what could work. Given them money, just try different stuff. Not a particular project, just try stuff. And then finally, the third thing is there's a set of no-regret capabilities that you can already invest in that you're going to need. One is organize for speed. It's no longer going to be possible to think about 12 to 18-month launch plans for your products. We heard today no more 5-year implementations. I think even 12 to 18 months for a lot of this is going to be too long. You need to start thinking is having a prototype ready in 12 weeks and launching it with 0.1% of your customers. Just be fast out there, then adjust, and 6 months be ready to launch. And think about always in beta. Start learning some of these things from the digital players out there. Then analytics is going to be massive. It's going to be really important. So you need to invest in analytics, becoming an analytics company and data company. It's going to be hugely important. And thirdly, is you need to create a digital IQ. You need to build digital understanding in your C-suite, but also throughout your organization. And that's not one massive training program, that's continuous learning that you need to embed in your company. And then to close, the most important thing is that you step forward, and you're going to fall. You're going to make wrong steps, and no one likes failure. But it's important that you understand that making small mistakes and learning from them is going to be really important. Otherwise, there are much bigger failures ahead. Thank you.